Do you want to become a rich person? You will. You will definitely become one. You will become one if you really want to become one, and if you read this article to the end. After all, in this article I will tell you about how to become a rich person, taking into account the experience of those who have already become rich, and I know such people. Well, and I will not forget to share my own experience, because I have also settled down well in life, thanks exclusively to my own efforts. I will not retell you any books. All the information that I will kindly share with you, I took from real life. You will not find anything like this on other sites. At least not yet, until internet parasites drag my knowledge and thoughts in a mutilated form to their children's sites. So my knowledge, my experience, my thoughts are not just information, they are high quality, practical and workable information, using which correctly, you will get a real, expected result. Theory, my friends, often diverges from practice in this life. Therefore, listen, first of all, to the words of those people who know how something actually works, how to become rich, and not those who talk about how something should work. I know a lot about wealth and rich people, since I often communicated with such people, but I cannot tell you everything in one article. So for now, I will tell you about the most important, from my point of view, what is related to wealth, and in my subsequent articles, I will tell you about everything else. Wealth does not come to people by itself, people come to wealth thanks to their personal qualities and their energy. Energy that is exactly energy, this is the most important thing you will need to become a rich person, because without energy, even knowledge will not help you. Because knowledge must be applied to be of any use, and simply possessing it will not give you anything. Previously, I put in first place the thinking that a rich person must have and the knowledge on which it is based, but now I have come to the conclusion that it is energy that comes first in importance in the matter of wealth and success. Let's say you know something important, so what if you know, and what next? After all, if you do not use this knowledge, do not apply it in practice, do not perform certain actions, thanks to this knowledge, you will not get anything from it, and someday it will die with you. You need energy to bring your knowledge to life, to squeeze all the juices out of it and due to these juices come to something more in your life. And energy, I tell you, is not a simple thing, it does not just appear anywhere, it is usually concentrated in the place where there is a great need for it. Let's say you decided to become a rich person and the first thing you did in this regard was ask a question to the search engine, which brought you to this page. Great, you have already taken the first step on the path to wealth, you have performed an action and received a result, and this is definitely a positive result, from which there is already benefit for you. However, you must agree that you did not make too much effort to get this result. You simply asked a question and received an answer to it, which still needs to be carefully studied in order to then apply the knowledge you realized in practice. Therefore, I did not and will not write in this article about such a great accomplishment, about such a miracle as the birth of a good question in your head, from which, as a rule, everything begins. We will omit this moment for now, and raise it in other articles. So, since you asked the question and got an answer, now you need to move on, you need to solve more complex problems related not only to theory, but also to practice. Where can I get the energy for all this? Before you, millions of people asked themselves the question of wealth, and after you, millions and millions of people will look for an answer to this question, and regardless of whether they get this answer or not, only a few of them will become truly rich. Do you know why this is so? Do you know why most people will never become rich? Because they do not have the energy necessary to solve such a complex problem, that's why. Finding out about something is not a problem today, thanks to the internet, but some are too lazy to start doing something more complex. It is better to read something else, and then something else, just to do nothing. So I will repeat my question, do you know where to get the energy that will help you get rich? I will tell you where you can get it. This energy can awaken in you only if you have a strong desire to achieve something greater than what you already have. And the power of desire lies in the power of the emotions that you experience during the birth of your desire. Although, to be more precise, desire and the emotions that accompany it are essentially born simultaneously, if only we are talking about a true desire. Therefore, something must necessarily happen in your life that would allow you to experience a very strong emotion, no matter whether it is positive or negative. It is important that this emotion prompts you to certain actions. All rich people either wanted something very much, or did not want something very much. That is why they showed great activity in their lives, which allowed them to become rich. After all, if I told you now what you need to do to earn a lot of money, you wouldn't do it. You simply wouldn't want to strain yourself to get the result you need, first and foremost. Having a minimum of benefits in your life that you are happy with, which you have already gotten used to, you won't move your ass unless absolutely necessary. And don't even think that I'm wrong. I know people like you, and I won't be convinced by any nonsense, like the fact that you will definitely work for yourself, that you are not like others, and that just tell me what needs to be done and you will definitely do it. I'm not the kind of person to whom such nonsense can be pulled. You may be able to deceive yourself, but not me. Therefore, I repeat, you need to experience a strong emotion, preferably a negative one, which will awaken energy in you, feeding on which you will go and even fly forward to new achievements for you. Anger. A person has to get really angry to start doing something, because most people, the majority of people, are prone to be active only when there is an urgent need for it. Start with disgust for your current life, with disgust for your job, for your place of residence, and with disgust for almost your entire value system. Realize the fact that your life is shit. There are no normal entertainments in it, there are only cheap stimulants for cattle, all sorts of surrogate pig swill, tobacco, drugs, and other shit that poverty pumps into itself by the ton to escape from the slave reality, as well as all these dens for horny animals, discos, clubs, and so on. There is no normal housing in your life, there is only a wretched box called an apartment or a stinking barn called a house, inherited by you from your grandmother. And all you have left to do is to cover this stinking hole with plastic, calling it a renovation or, if you like, a European-style renovation. There is no normal job in your life, only a cattle pen, in which you, along with other such losers, are forced to bend over backwards for your slave owner, who commands you like some boy or girl, depending on your gender, squeezing all the juices out of you, and in return throwing you a bone in the form of a miserable salary. Well, come on, get really angry. Experience this feeling of dissatisfaction that motivates a person to action. Stop consoling yourself with all sorts of small joys. Do you want to become a rich person or not? If you do, then everything you already have should become disgusting to you, you should hate it all. Understand that you have nothing real, you only have substitutes for a normal life. Yes, I remember that I advised you to appreciate and respect everything that is already in your life, that you have already achieved, if you read my previous articles, but this is not the case when it is appropriate to remember this. You need a new push, a kick in the ass, if you want to become a rich person, if you want, which will allow you to rise to a higher level in the social pyramid, and therefore you need, you need to experience negative emotions in order to move from this place. Do you think how rich people became rich? Do you think they were content with little in their lives? Do you think they put up with the position that society determined for them and that is why they became rich? Nothing of the sort. They all wanted more and still want more, and that is why they have more than you, much more. Let me tell you a little about my path to a wealthy life. Not to a rich life, but to a wealthy life, and then I will explain why I came to a wealthy life. I lived in shit, I ate shit, and not always, I was surrounded mainly by cattle. That is why I allow myself to sometimes use tabloid jargon in my articles, counting on those who understand it well. They taught me, just like you, only how to stand on all fours all my life, that is, to work for pennies for the man. There was nothing truly good in my life. Even when I seemed to have found a normal job, with an acceptable salary for most people, and therefore for me, with the prospect of career growth and other such perks, nothing really changed for the better in my life. But all this cheapness, this whole illusion of a normal life, for some reason did not affect me. I somehow, felt that something in my life was wrong, that it was really kind of shitty. I don't know why I, like everyone else, did not come to terms with my situation. Maybe my love for reading and thinking played a role. Only idiots rejoice in everything and are happy with everything. Maybe I'm just too demanding of life from birth, and I was a very capricious child. In general, it doesn't matter what exactly, but something forced me to be dissatisfied with everything. And when you are dissatisfied with something, you want to change it, it's natural. And I started to change myself first of all, to give a worthy response to this life and this society, which does not need rich and successful people, it needs miserable and wretched slaves. By the way, do you know that you are not needed by anyone who is rich and successful? Or maybe you think that other people only think about how to make your life better? I hope that you are an adequate person, and therefore you understand that no one needs you in this life, especially rich and successful people, happy with their life and independent of anyone. You are definitely not needed. And only your own efforts will help you achieve something in this life, only your efforts, remember this. No one will meet you halfway, for your own good, but many will be happy to put a spoke in your wheel, to prevent you from coming to a rich life. Knowledge. Well, let's get back to me, and the miserable life I once lived. I didn't want to work for someone else, I didn't want a cheap life, I didn't want to be subordinate to anyone at all, and so I, like you, started looking for answers to my questions. And I also read articles like this one, maybe not of such high quality, but nevertheless, I read everything. I also read a lot of books on business, success, wealth, money, psychology, sociology, religion, and everything that is somehow related to wealth and power. As much as possible, I talked to successful people, tried to find out from them what exactly helped them achieve their impressive position in society, tried to force all the secrets out of them and understand their way of thinking. In general, I was looking for answers to my questions. And I looked for them quite actively. And I must say that knowledge, damn it, is a really powerful thing. Knowledge is food for your mind, which allows you to grow above yourself. Try to get exactly the knowledge that is closest to the task you have set for yourself. And what task did you set for yourself, remember? You want to become rich. As far as I understand, this is your main task. And that means that all these little books about the infinity of the universe, about butterflies and fish, about unearthly love, will have to be put aside. Business, money, power, the ability to manage people, this is what you need to learn. This is the knowledge you should get. Gnaw on the granite of the right science, read about money, power, business, about the psychology of people and so on, in order to serve yourself, and not someone else. I gnawed on the granite of such a correct science of life for a long time, in order not to gnaw on the asphalt. Nobody chewed anything for me, as I am chewing everything for you now. In each of my articles, I came to everything myself. And here's what I will tell you, he who seeks will always find, and I found it. I found the answers to my questions, maybe not to all, but to many. And what did I do next? I started to act, you understand, to act, not to read beyond articles and books, but to act. Knowledge is power, but it is a sleeping power, and to awaken it, it is necessary to act. Action. How did I act? And how should I act in general in order to become rich? I called people, offered them cooperation, offered them my services, and they sent me away, but I called them again, offered my services again, asked what exactly they did not like about me, and so on, and so on, and so on. I was a very persistent person. They sent me away, and I came back, and if someone categorically refused to do business with me, I looked for other potential partners. I tried to sell them everything, my goods and services, other people's goods and services. I looked for ways to make money on everything that could make you rich. Some wanted to work with me, some did not, some really liked my persistence and energy, and some were ready to strangle me, but be that as it may, in the end, I came to what I wanted to come to a position that is quite acceptable for me, in which I currently find myself. I started cooperating with those with whom it was profitable for me to cooperate. And other people who achieve even greater results than me also actively climb up precisely through cooperation with more successful people. They try to establish business connections with those who really have a lot of money and power. This is how you need to act. You need to do business with those who will help you grow and become richer, that is, with those who are already rich. And you know what's most interesting, at the moment, something again does not suit me. I just can't understand what exactly, either the situation in the country, or the situation in the world, or my laziness does not suit me. In general, who the hell knows, I need to figure it out. But for now, I put up with my position as a well-off, but not very rich person, and I put up with it because I am a little tired of fighting for a place in the sun, and new heights require a new struggle, and therefore new energy, the importance of which I explained to you so clearly above. You see, it all depends on what positions we start from in this life. If you start from more or less normal positions, you may last a long time, but if you are trying to get out of the very bottom, as I did, your energy may run out at a certain point. And then you will need a new push, new energy to grow further. I am currently recharging. I am not ready for a new push yet. Well, do you get the gist of what I'm explaining to you? Do you understand what incentives help people become rich? Do you think that people become rich because they know some secrets and mysteries? Well, yes, the chosen people in this world really do know more about it than you do, but that's not enough. You still have to, as I said, do some things, and the right things, and not just snap your fingers, giving orders left and right. Knowledge is knowledge, but you need to make movements, at least in order to give the right order and control its execution. And if an ordinary person does all sorts of crap, like creative visualization, and strains in anticipation of something falling on his head by itself, then normal, adequate people act in order to get something. I'm not saying that they work like Papa Carlo, I'm saying that they act, that is, they take the right actions that lead them to the right result. What these correct actions are, I have already actually said, that is, written about them in my articles, but I will write it again, it is not a problem. Another thing is important. It is important that you follow my recommendations, and not skeptically chew them over with your husband or wife in the kitchen, trying to justify your laziness and cowardice by mistrust of me. Determination, so don't believe me, just get off your ass, or at least pick up the phone, and call some big company, and offer them your services. And don't ask me what services to offer, it doesn't matter, because it's not about the services. It's about your desire to cooperate with people who are more successful than you. Call the largest company in your city and offer its director some of your services. Offer him, for example, to consult his employees on the issue of increasing labor productivity. This is an example. You can offer something else that you understand. Convince this director that your services are the best that his company can afford to increase the efficiency of its work. You, of course, will need to prepare for such work, if you are given the go-ahead, so as not to lose face. Well, what problems do you have with this? Do you not have the internet at hand? Can't you find examples of such services that you yourself decided to provide in order to learn how to provide them correctly? Determination is important here, determination to start acting beyond your usual capabilities. Your task is to agree on cooperation with richer people, and it does not matter what this cooperation will consist of. It is important to be able to latch on to a fat piece of the pie. It is important to get close to the rich and successful in order to work with them. Oh, I feel like you have started twirling your finger at your temple, considering me an inadequate person who offers you some nonsense. Hell, I am not normal. It is rather you who are not normal if you do not understand the meaning of my recommendations. However, if this is too much for you, to take and squeeze something truly great out of yourself, you can start with simpler things, for example, by changing your place of work, moving to a higher paying and prestigious job. High standards of living. If you want to be a rich person, then reach out to rich people, start thinking, living, acting according to their standards, blend into their environment and adapt to it, and when you completely change your thinking and value system, you will never forget how to live a rich life. High standards of life, that's what you should focus on in order to act in accordance with your desires, and not in accordance with your capabilities. That is, you need to raise the bar as high as possible and try to reach this height. Anyhow, no good. You either go for the better, or do not stick your head out of your gray hole at all. So if you want to know how to become a rich person forever, as some people ask me, then change your brain once and for all. And if you were twirling your fingers at your temple after the offer I made to you above, then become as crazy as I am, so that you can also become rich at the same time. Yes, the worldview of rich and poor people is fundamentally different. It cannot be otherwise. Education is education, but a person must also have special ideological convictions in order to strive for the right goals in the right way. And you need to strive for all the best that this world has to offer. If you console yourself with something less, you will have no incentive to strive for more. If being second is acceptable to you, then you are a loser, and your life will be accordingly. Develop a habit of high living standards, high quality of life, high demands on life, on people and, most importantly, on yourself. What are the best cars, do you know that? Where is the best place to live? What is the best thing to eat? What is the best thing to drink? Where and with whom is the best place to sleep? Do you know the best, the very best that this world has to offer? If you do, then strive for it. To hell with all these substitutes in the form of cheap crap available to many. They are not suitable for you. Keep in mind that you don't need anything that is available to the majority and that is generally intended for the majority. The minority will never offer anything good to the majority, because the minority lives at the expense of the majority, and it doesn't need to teach the crowd anything beneficial to it. Your head, like your stomach, is your business. Don't act the way the majority acts, don't think the way the majority thinks, don't live by the values the majority lives by, and so on. Strive for those you want to become, and by God, you will become a rich man. A rich person is the creator of his own happiness. This means that a rich person understands that if he does not take care of himself, no one will take care of him. Most people are nothing more than functions for a certain type of activity to which they are attached. These people, perform a highly specialized task, acting within strictly limited frameworks, which are the ceiling of their capabilities. And as soon as you close down the activity itself, for which a person was molded and attached, representing, as a specialist, an ordinary function, as this person, as an individual, simply will not exist. Type of activity now, regarding the type of activity that you need to engage in. Why am I telling you all this when I talk about highly specialized specialists, sharpened for a certain activity? So that you understand, especially if you are still very young, that you should learn something that will never and under no circumstances remain unclaimed. And I am telling you, learn to manage people, at worst, manage money, and then wealth will be ensured to you. Don't know how to become the richest person? And I will tell you, become the best leader, an ideological one, first of all, a leader in whom people will believe, and to whom they will obey unquestioningly. Money is, if you have already read me, then you know, nothing more than a means of managing people. It is a religion, an ideology. These are the slave chains of our time. This is what people are ready to sell themselves for. A rich person does not need money. A rich person needs the result of the labor of the majority of people for this money. You don't need money. Your goal is not money. Your goal is people. Focus on people. Try to become someone special for them, someone who is very necessary for them, who is important to them, who they are ready to follow, who they are ready to obey, and then power will come to you, and with it money, and therefore wealth. The type of activity that you choose as your main one will determine your entire destiny. Tell me, can a welder, or a plumber, or an accountant, or a taxi driver become a very rich person? That's it. And a politician? And a businessman? And a spiritual mentor? Can they become rich people? Just look at our patriarch, look at his watch, look at his car and his house. And you will see how a servant of God lives. I won't even mention all these ministers and oil and gas oligarchs. Their lives are beyond your wildest and most fantastic dreams. So be adequate to the reality you live in. Do not imagine mountains of gold in an activity in which they have never been and will not be. Your main task, which you must solve in order to become a rich person, is to understand how the real world works, by what laws it lives. You need to dig, search, find, test, and apply in life the most practical knowledge on which any wealth is built, inextricably linked with power. This is not an easy task, because there are forces in this world that are not interested in you getting out of the mud into princes, but you can resist these forces if you have enough for this, what? That's right, energy, the very energy that I wrote about at the very beginning of the article. They will prevent you from coming to a good life. You must understand this, and must be ready for this. The derationalization of consciousness and the mass transition of most people to an emotional model of seeing and processing the information they receive is the result of countermeasures on the part of those who want to prevent you from becoming a strong and rich person, capable of taking everything he wants, and not asking for it. But I want to point out that you don't have to fight with those who are already rich and powerful to get your piece of the pie. You can become simply an interesting subject, a useful person for them, if you start serving their goals and living their ideals, accepting their value system and forming a similar worldview in yourself. That's why I suggested that you call the largest company in your city and offer its director some form of cooperation. Become part of the minority, part of the elite, by cooperating with them. It's easier than being in opposition, hoping that the brainless crowd will lead you to power and money. Healthy egoism, and remember this, wealth is something that should not, because it cannot, be for everyone. We live on a planet with limited resources, which in principle does not have enough wealth, in our understanding of it, for everyone without exception, who, on top of everything else, also breed like rabbits. All people, by definition, cannot be rich, because the rich live at the expense of the poor, and if someone is rich, then someone is poor. One rich person is equal to a certain number of poor people, because if something is increasing in one place, then in another place, this something is decreasing. You need to understand this. Other people should not worry you. Stick to healthy egoism, and sometimes unhealthy, because it is very useful for any person, especially it is useful for someone who has decided to get rich. Forget about other people, you will never please them anyway. You think only of yourself when you strive for wealth, and you care about other people as needed, when you give people exactly as much as they need to be given. If you give people a lot of food, they will simply gorge themselves. Have you heard of such a saying? Well, it is appropriate here. Each person should be given not according to need, but according to necessity. And such a necessity does not arise often, Because people can want a lot, but at the same time will do little to get this much. You, too, are not particularly itching to get rich, or after my article you will do something? I hope you will. Otherwise, what is the point of gaining knowledge? No matter how useful it is, there will be no benefit from it if you do not apply it. Well, that's probably all, at least for this article. The footcloth has already turned out to be big. But there is a continuation, nevertheless. Read my site, study my articles, and develop in the right direction. My interests, thanks to which I write my articles, coincide with your interests, to learn something from them. So as long as we are interesting to each OT,